Oh, we have another thing up here. Hi, Mary and Jeff.
I see Debbie walking all the time, why don't you?
Because I'm storing up for the winter.
Up here. Do that.
Storing up for the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. 4 minutes.
That was just a little too quick. Felt like you had that all chambered up.
Yeah. Like the response.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, Jim.
Science.
We have voucher sign sheet, sign there, sheet, perfect, just
Yeah.
making sure it's on the table.
Right.
Still scarred.
Right, I mean, I think everybody's doing well signed right now.
Meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Thank you everyone for being here. I would invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You here. All right, this is an opportunity for public comment. If you'd like to address city council, do we have a sign up sheet going?
Wave my arm, does that work?
I'm sure you'll get our attention somewhere. Okay, so we got Mary on the list and then we'll go from there.
Go ahead, Mary.
Brian, I'm usually first, but you can go first too.
Well,
Be in the hot seat.
Okay, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. My name is Brian McNamara. I'm a Stevenson property owner and I am here today to discuss slightly the proposed sewer connection, mandatory sewer connection for residents who are along the newly developed pipe going up Loop and Frank John's Road. And where to begin? So in this process, I feel like and I did write a letter to the council. You have it in your packet. I do appreciate the responses from those who did. And however, in one instance, Chuck, last name, sir? Oldfield, I apologize for not being able to. You referred me to page 10, page 12 of a document that I was never able to find, and you didn't exactly tell me which one, but in the process, I went down the city rabbit hole and city council website seeking notifications that had come out. And indeed, I am on the city council's mailing list to give me information of when these meetings are coming. And I feel like some of that is, I think it's a great thing, but you have to realize that a lot of people don't monitor their computer. People that I know who own property don't know that that's available. So notifications of these pending things, I feel could be better done. And that would be by the city council, and thank you, Cody, for the call after the fact, after the council had passed that. Trying to describe, and I had no idea really about this incentive plan. I'd never seen any documentation, so I felt and I feel that notifications of these things can be sent to the affected property owners by general mail. Everybody reads their mail. The information is widely available through the assessor's office. And of course, Cody actually knew all of our phone numbers to call us. So that is something that I would like to see the city council do when you're making a decision that can greatly affect the finances and the values of property. So not to belabor that, you guys have my letter, and but I did some pocket math after talking to Cody, and although he came up with a few different numbers, when I was notified of my cost from the city to connect, it was $9,000. I've since found an older document that specifically lines this stuff out. And, so if I can do this really quick, I won't take too much of your time, but currently my water bill as a senior is $26 a month. I believe the standard is 40. So that's $300 a year, 3,000 over 10 years. The penalty for not connecting within the such and such time zone is currently set at 42. I had a higher number, but that's $504 a year. That's more than my water cost. Secondly, that's 5,000 over 10. Okay. The fee per month, once I connect, is actually $140 per month. That's $1,680 a year that for a service that I've never needed. I have a septic system. It's working fine. It's been updated. So over a 1-year period, that's $1,680, $16,800 over 10 years that I, with my septic system, would not have to pay. And unless I was forced to. And so that's quite a savings. Basically, if I were to connect, it costs about $5,000. It's almost 100 feet through my property. Cody and I guess we discussed about $5,000, $9,000 to connect if I don't take the carrot for an incentive to do it right away. So that's $14,000 plus the 10-year rate for signing up with is about with water is about $20,000. So that's $40,000. That's $34,000 over 10 years. That's a substantial amount, especially for seniors, people that are on fixed incomes. So I feel like after watching the meeting, that it seems like this resolution or ordinance was somewhat rushed through, and over some comments from Dave dissenting and Pat, it's still being rammed through. At the same time, we're facing elections and city staff is reduced. And I know that there have been comments from other residents that they also were blindsided by not having very much information and by its costs. So to sum it up, recently, like yesterday, I did go down through the site and I found a thing called the proposed sewer ordinance, updating Stevenson sewer ordinance, a community driven approach. And in this document, this is an older
Brian?
document.
Brian,
It goes,
you're
too
way
much
over
time.
your 3 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Wrap it up.
anyway, I guess I thank you for your time. I hope you guys will, postpone any action on this and then have the opportunity to have a meeting with the affected citizens. So I apologize for going over. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brian. Mary?
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First, I just want to let you all know there's the 2025 Columbia Housing Stabilization Summit coming up. I hope you've all been invited to it. I think it's very important. I just signed up for it. And it's about 40 organizations that'll do it. I'm sure Lucy knows even more about it. I can send you the information if you need it. And I sent you some comments about the solid waste program that the county is asking you to sign off on. I don't know if you've been able to read my comments about it, but I've been on that advisory committee, I think 20 years. It's foggy. And one of the things that I don't think we're doing well, and I wrote this out in my comments to Brad Ulig, who's the director of solid waste. We're not doing well in recycling, especially in the plastics. I mean, I don't know if you all keep track of the amount of plastics that you have. It's horrible. There's plastics everywhere. We at least used to do different numbers. Now we just do milk jugs and something else. And that's not enough. That
You're
does,
talking about the recycling?
yes, the recycling program. And plastics are dangerous for the environment too. So microplastics especially. I believe there's some reporting research that microplastics are now ubiquitous in women's breast milk, which is really troubling. And one of the biggest that I've had people come up to me to ask is about the organic waste, like yard debris and other things. I think we need a burn ban within the city limits. There should be no burning within the city limits. We live in an area that has inversions, and as you get older, it gets harder to breathe. Trust me on this one. And we have plenty of inversions here. When we had the smoke from Canada and from other places come through here, it stayed. And you could taste it on your tongue and that. So I would urge you to do that. But the other side of that is that we need a composting program. And I've told our Scotia County solid waste that, you can make some money off that composting. Once it's composted, you can sell it back to the people who donate the stuff to you. I don't know if you've all used Dirt Hugger, but that is a really, really good company. It has organic dirt. Gator Creek actually sells it. We've used it in the community gardens and they do a great job, and maybe they can come and give us a talk on it. So, and the last thing is, I want to invite you to our Stevenson Grange number 121 movie this weekend at 2 o'clock, Damned to Extinction, DANMED. And we will have the writer and director of the film there after the showing for a question and answer period. And this speaks to the orcas on the Snake River, or having access to the salmon and getting rid of the dams there. And if you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else? Ready? All right, so there has been one change to the agenda. We will be going into, are we gonna be here?
No, I called him, but he has a soccer meeting or soccer training, soccer game. Yeah.
All right, well, we will have, we did add an executive session at the end of the meeting. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, you. All right. Sheriff's report.
Good evening. Hope everybody is doing well. You have been supplied documents for the month of September as well as the third quarter. Unfortunately, minus the updated training, the training officer is out on leave, so I was unable to obtain those documents at this time, but as soon as they're available, I will see that you get them. Are there any questions you have about the documents provided to you?
You're so slick.
Can I ask another question related to what's been provided?
Pardon?
Can I ask a question that doesn't have anything to do with what's been provided?
Sure, I'm here.
Have you gotten all the kinks worked out on the flock cameras?
Pardon?
Have you gotten all the issues dealt with as far as the flock?
I did, the one that we changed from down by Broughton's mill site that was on 14, that there was a little bit of a conflict with the state, so we moved that. I moved it to Cook Underwood Road. There was an issue brought up, basically stating that there should have been an archaeological survey. I reached out to, I'm gonna say, the archaeological people and addressed the issue. I got an answer back from today. They understand what it is. They don't feel that there's anything necessary to move forward on that particular area, and there's got a lot of fill in it as it is, and I don't feel that there would have been anything interrupted, but in the future, that's something to realize that needs to be looked at before any digging is done. So they've made us well aware of that. And as well, our road department was unaware that was a requirement as well, but it's been resolved and taken care of. Let's get on top of it and make sure that everybody met their needs, and we won't have any issues in the future, but they're all working.
They're okay.
They're all up and working, and you know, we do get hits all the time. Not saying we find every vehicle that comes into the county that we have a hit on. You know, everybody might be up on the east end and we get something on the west end, so we do our best. We have gotten some arrests out of it. I'm gonna say not a ton, but one good arrest is worthwhile. I mean, what the future's gonna bring, I don't have an answer for that right now. So, you know, so far they're working, and they're productive in their own way.
Thank you.
Speaking of flock cameras, I heard, is there a lawsuit against Community County on that? And I know, and I haven't read it, but I've heard that there was. Is that in fact true? Or?
It's not just the county, it's across the state.
Okay,
Because what people need to understand is the data is Flock's data. It becomes our data if we download it into
Okay.
our system. And that's what people don't quite understand. So that is an issue that my understanding is, like you, is going into the court now
okay,
to rule on whether the information that we're seeing in the
Okay.
Flock system is technically ours or is that theirs?
okay.
That's
yeah.
the dispute.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, since you were on that subject. I thought-
No problem. Anything else?
Not this time.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. All right, well, next up, we have a presentation from Grayling, who's here today.
Here,
Oh,
mine.
from live. Very good.
You'll hear us all right?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Krista Busby. I don't know how to turn on my camera in this kind of Zoom meeting, so you may just have to listen to my voice. I'm a design engineer with Grayling Engineers, helping the city with a long-term water source supply analysis. I've got Kyle Thompson, our company president, here with us today as well. Kyle, if you wanted to chime in.
Hello, everybody. I'm just here for support if there's any additional questions. So
Perfect.
turn it back to you, Krista.
Thanks, Kyle. So yeah, Cody had asked us to attend this meeting to talk y'all through the phase 1A effort of the long-term water source supply analysis. and then talk a little bit about what Phase 1B is going to mean for the city. So I guess to start off, I'll kind of assume that you'll have some sort of background information on this project. This is for the city's water system, for the people that are joining. So the overall purpose of the Phase 1A project was to come up with surface water and groundwater supply alternatives to meet the city's long-term water demands. So we did work to determine the city water demands forecasted to what we call build out, which is the point at which we don't expect your population to be growing anymore. And what we found was that as the system operates currently, which is majorly through surface water, the water supply can only meet your maximum day demand until around 2050. And by maximum day demand, that would be, sometime during the summer when everybody's watering their lawns, irrigating, all that. So until 2050 is you guys are in the clear. Once we hit that point, we get concerned about water supply. So as part of this project, we evaluated the feasibility of the alternatives that we came up with based on several criteria. This included permitting, land acquisition, treatment, pipeline, reliability, etc. And once we had evaluated all of the alternatives we came up with, we were able to narrow it down to 2 separate system configurations for the city to pursue further. So one ended up being a surface water configuration, and one was going to be a groundwater configuration. So the surface water system configuration selected for the next phase was decided to upgrade the existing Rock Creek intake, which is having issues with supply as of right now. And the groundwater system configuration chosen was kind of a combination of several things. It included upgrading the existing Hegewald well, drilling another well adjacent to Hegewald to be able to withdraw more water, and or drilling a well near the water treatment plant property, again to increase the groundwater supply. So both of these system configurations were determined to be feasible options, which allows the city to move to the next phase of work, kind of preliminary design concept. And then the big thing is costing out the difference between having a surface water system versus a groundwater system. So before I get into kind of a synopsis of the work we are hoping to be performing for Phase 1B, I did want to give y'all the opportunity to ask any questions about the work that's already been performed, if you had any.
Krista, this is Dave Cox. What is the issue with the Rock Creek intake?
Yeah, great question. So the existing Rock Creek intake, the way that it's set up, it was built, gosh, probably back in the 50s or 60s, I want to say. There's a pump station on the edge of Rock Creek, and then there are perforated pipes that run underneath the creek bed that pull in water into the pump station and then take it over to the water treatment plant. Now, because those pipes are buried, it's hard to tell exactly what's wrong, but the city has observed a pretty substantial decrease in withdrawal from that intake, which could mean several things.
We lost you, Krista.
We lost your audio, Krista.
Design for. What's that?
We lost you at
We
some
lost your
point.
audio.
Oh gosh, sorry. My internet can
Yeah,
cut out
several
sometimes. Let me know if it still doesn't work well.
We lost you at perforated pipes.
Perforated buried pipes.
Okay. So yeah, the creek is the pipeline for the intake goes underneath the creek. It's perforated, draws in water. Because that pipe is buried, it's hard to say where exactly the issue is coming from. It could be that pipe is crushed in some way, damaged. It could be that the pipe has been filled with sediment and it's not able to be cleaned out well enough to be able to withdraw enough water. So kind of most of the information we have is based on, the city is seeing a substantial decrease in their water withdrawals from that intake site.
Is there no way to scope it?
So the city attempted to do scoping, I want to say 2 years ago. I believe it was a diver that went out to try to see if they could see anything going on. There is not a great way to scope it currently. They did hit some obstacle, as far as I know, where they couldn't get any farther into the pipe, which to me, it's either sedimentation or just damaged. So if you can't fit a camera through, then we can't really get any additional information, unfortunately.
Well, to me, it sounds like we don't really know what's going on with the Rock Creek intake. And I think that's critical that we know what's going on with that.
Sure. I
So,
mean, when we think about a project at this size with such an old intake, there's a couple of different options we look at. We look at rehabilitation or we look at replacement, which is part of the work that we're going to be doing as part of phase 1B would be to come up with a preliminary concept to replace the existing intake structure and how that's set up because it is so old.
Can I ask a quick
Does that
question?
answer your question, Dave?
well, yeah, but yes and no, because if we have the infrastructure in place already, we should be able to know what the status is of that. And right now, it's questionable as to what the status is. And even you as, engineers can't give us an answer. So the quick fix is, well, we're just gonna replace it. Well, that doesn't set well with me. We have a tight budget and, I just think it behooves us to know what we're dealing with there rather than just guessing.
Sure,
So
I'm
this
gonna
is,
let Kyle chime in here.
yeah, I'll chime in just because I was involved with when this project started with Carolyn and looking at the scope of work for this. So that's actually how the project started, was an investigation um to look at ways to figure out what was going on there. So we went down that road a, a little ways, and I'm sure you're aware of where the intake is. The access is extremely difficult. We would require, it would be in-water work to do any sort of excavation to dig up those pipes. I mean, that's really what it came down to, is that we would just have to go out there and dig up the riverbed to find out what was going on with those pipes. And it really just got to the point where the question became, well, even if capacity was restored there, yes, it would certainly help. But the question came up about, well, is this even going to serve our long-term needs? And so that's where we kind of pivoted and put together the original scope of work, or this scope of work, to answer that question. Does that help? I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think that one of the takeaways from the work that we ended up doing was that even if we were to restore the capacity of Rock Creek, it's still not, it would be a short-term fix. So the decision was made to look at this from a long-term perspective. I think the intake's been in operation for at least 50 years. And so the tack chosen was to say, okay, well, what are we going to do for the next 50 to 100 years?
I was curious about the data behind the 2050. What exactly is the problem there that we're going to be coming up against?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as far as data goes, so we base all of our water demand calculations off of data received from the city on water that is uh, given or distributed to customers, right? That is metered. That's how water bills are determined, right? And then how much water is treated at the water treatment plant. So we can see, okay, if you know you have a population of this amount at this year, uh, and this much water demand for this population. We look at, it was a report done, I want to say 10-ish years ago by the planning department of the city that determined an ultimate population for the entire city based on tax lots and population estimates. And so we can use that to project out into the future of, okay, when are we going to hit our ultimate population for one, which is what we call build out. And then based on our existing water supply sources, so how much water we're getting out of your surface water intakes, which is the Rock Creek, Cedar Springs, Lebong Creek, sorry, Cedar Springs and Lebong Creek rather. And we can take that and compare it against population. So as we grow, also water demands are also growing. So we can, you know, find that point where it meets, right? So in 2050 is where your maximum water demands meet your withdrawals from your water intakes.
Okay, so does that factor in impacts from climate change? One of the questions I asked Carolyn when I toured the water treatment plant is if Rock Creek goes dry, what are we gonna do?
And that is a great question. Yeah. So that is where we start to think about redundancy in these systems. So for Rock Creek, you have to make some assumptions for any surface water, right? What are the what ifs, right? So that's why y'all would have, you guys have 3 surface water intakes as of right now. So if Rock Creek were to go dry, you can still use Lebong Creek, Cedar Springs, and then you also have Hegewald Well, your one groundwater well. And so the hope is that if any one single supply of water goes to 0, you still have enough in all of your other sources to meet your demands, is the intent.
So Chris, isn't there issues with Hagewald? So with, I don't, the pH level on it?
Yes, so there has been issues in the past with pH causing issues with lead and copper in the system. And so something that the city or Public Works is doing right now is implementing some corrosion control, which is pH adjustment at Hegewald. That work is happening this month, as far as I know. And so that will not be a concern for continued use of Hegewald in the future.
What about if we were to drop another well right there? How does that pH level affect the new well?
That's a great question. So an assumption that we made during phase 1A when we were thinking about these alternatives is if one well, such as Hegewald, needs pH adjustment, then we assume that any adjacent well will also need pH adjustment.
Which increased the cost of using that well.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. This is Pat Rice from the council. Hey, now there was a phase 1. Was there a phase 1? When we're talking about phase 1B or whatever, was there a phase A report done?
Yes, so there has been so that's the kind of summary I gave y'all a few minutes ago before I opened up for questions. That's the work that's already been completed, was phase 1A, and it was kind of looking at all of these alternatives we could come up with for surface water and groundwater, and then narrowing it down to 2 options. And in this next phase of work is where we're getting into cost implications for those 2 options, so the city can make a final decision.
For that phase 1 or A, so there was a report of some type that was.
Yes.
Okay, was that made part of the packet yet? Because I had asked for that and I wasn't able to review it, and I'm looking at okay. Maybe at some point if we could get a copy of that report, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Krista, when was that initially contracted?
The phase 1A was contracted, I believe, January or February of Is that right, Kyle, or was it December of 24? I think it was December of 24.
Yeah, I can look. It's a 24 project number, so it was.
It was in the latter half of 2024. The report was completed and sent to the city in June of this year.
Yeah, I'm sure the council has seen that before, but it would just be good to, now that we're discussing it, to get reminded of that. And then the big concern that I had was, and I haven't seen in the packet, but it could be there and I'm just missing it, is I know that we got the cost of your work, but what are we getting into if we were to, and I know it's probably too early to figure out what this would all cost us if we were to fix this system according to what experts such as yourself would suggest, but that was, maybe it's too early to get to those numbers, but I was kind of curious, what are we, if you have any ideas, is what we're talking about if we fix these things to the professional standards that you would advise. Maybe we're too
Sure.
early to get.
You know, I think you're totally right that it's hard to put a number to that right now. That is the whole goal of this next phase, is to come up with those numbers. You know, to do any sort of accurate or semi-accurate cost estimate, we do need some kind of preliminary concept design to go off of. So we would not be able to give you any numbers just off the top of my head because I would hate to be wrong.
Right.
But I can
Yeah,
go ahead and walk you through this next phase of work if that would be helpful of what we plan to do.
Chris, this is Dave Cox again. Have you addressed anything at all about repairing it? What we are looking at if we decided to repair it? And I know
So-
that Kyle had addressed that some, but
Sure, yeah. So like Kyle said, we did a very early on project effort before even this phase 1A long-term water source. It was titled Rock Creek Intake Rehabilitation Project is what that work was. That was back in, I want to say, 2023. And what it comes down to is, in order to do any rehab of the Rock Creek intake, like Kyle said, we would need to get into the creek, do a temporary cofferdam, right? And then basically dig up that pipe. And before we do that, we would need to have a plan in place on how to fix it or how to replace it, which is pretty difficult to do because you only have certain in-water work windows, which means, you know, you can only be in the creek for, let's say, 3 months, right? So you need to spend that time to unearth it and then come up with a whole new design and put it in place, theoretically, right? When we think about engineering, we think about the long term as much as we can. And the cost of getting into Rock Creek and making any repairs to the existing system, again, like Kyle said, is that a short-term fix, or would we rather look at, okay, you know, if you want to use this source for the next 75 years, instead of having to get in another 15 to increase the capacity, should we just do that now? Is that a better use of funds, is what we're thinking about.
okay, thank you.
All right, so I can start to walk y'all through what the plan is for phase 1B. So this next phase of work just builds on the feasibility assessment that was done as part of phase 1A. And like I said before, the largest goal of this phase is to identify cost implications of staying as a surface water supplied system as you currently are, or switching to a solely groundwater supply system. So if we were to switch to solely groundwater, there would be no surface water sources. It just wouldn't make sense to keep the water treatment plant in use if we were to move to mostly groundwater. So all the work that we do in phase 1B will ultimately lead to what we call a life cycle cost estimate for both system configurations. So that's going to be the upgrade of Rock Creek or the upgrade of Hegewald and installation of potential new wells as well. So with the completion of this phase, The city will have a detailed cost estimate over the entire lifetime of the source and treatment facilities to make a decision of which configuration to go with. So in order to do what we call a life cycle cost estimate, we can't just know about the construction and design that we're doing for upgrades. We also need to know about all of the other facilities. So the first task that we'll be doing would be a surface water facility condition assessment. So this would be including the water treatment plant, the existing intakes, so not just Rock Creek, but also LeBon Creek and Cedar Springs, and then the raw water pipelines, which takes water from the intakes to the water treatment plant. So, yeah, we have a electrical engineer contracted to help with this work within the water treatment plant specifically, just because electrical controls are not something that we do at Grayling. And it will result ultimately in a condition assessment memorandum that the city can use for long-term maintenance and replacement needs if y'all choose to stay as a surface water system. The next task that we would be doing is developing those design concepts for both those system configurations. The descriptions that we provided as part of phase 1A to determine feasibility are adequate for feasibility, but not for cost. So we went ahead and got a hydrogeologist helping out with this project for groundwater design concepts and all the discussions revolving around water rights. And as part of the design concepts, we'll be putting together site plans and narratives for review and coordination with the folks at Public Works. And all of this work within phase 1B, like I said, leads to the life cycle cost estimate and its associated report. This estimate includes initial capital investment for design and construction, so the money that you need to put up upfront to make upgrades. And then it's got operations and maintenance over the entire lifetime of the facility. So what it takes to operate the water treatment plant on a day-to-day basis, what it takes to service pumps, whether that be well pumps or surface water pumps, replacement costs for any equipment within your facilities, end of life costs, which is really just removal costs. If something doesn't work anymore, how much does it cost to get it out of there? And then once that's all done, we put the information and concepts into a report so that you all can make the final decision. We'll present all of these findings to the city council, and then you can make that decision of, okay, do you want to stay with surface water or do you want to switch over to a groundwater system for the long term?
Krista, do you include in your report, you address revenue sources at all?
That is not something we currently have scoped. Are you talking about
How are we
revenue
gonna pay for
sources?
this, Krista? That's
So
what I- that's
yeah, so revenue sources, are you talking about funding to do the upgrades?
What's that?
Are you talking about kind of like outside funding to do the construction work that we would be proposing?
Right, what sources are out there that are available? And do you look into those at all as far as what's available for us to be able to come out and pay for this? Because we're talking millions of dollars here. And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah, I'll
and
let
so
Kyle
we're
chime
gonna
in
have
on
to-
this one. He's more of our funding expert.
right, and I don't want another fiasco with like we've had with the sewer plant. And the ongoing costs and everything else, and we need to know costs up front. And we also need to know where those revenue streams are coming from. And I think that should be a critical part of what you're presenting to us. You're just presenting right now the concept of what we need to have, but then, we don't know how much we're gonna be able to get to do this.
Yeah, so I'll address that. So the entire outline of this scope of work, the reason there's the different phases. So the phase 2, so phase 1, we would end with what's the preferred alternative, the preferred approach for the water supply going forward. Phase two, if the city would decide to move forward with that, would be a like a 10% design. So it's a kind of a more detailed preliminary design so that we can get a more detailed cost of the project. And so there would be a cost estimate associated with that. And the idea there was that we would be able to package this alternatives analysis process into an actual preliminary design report and or what's usually called a PER or preliminary engineering report. And then that forms the basis for applications for funding. So a lot of like USDA, as an example, they have a specific format for their PERs that you have to follow. And so what we typically recommend is that it's really not that much effort to put it in their format. If you put it in their format, USDA accepts it, and pretty much any other funding agency will accept it as well. So the thought is that this gives you a foundational document and cost that you can go to different, buckets of money and request, funds. The other aspect of it is that you have a water system plan update coming up, and I've talked to Cody about that. And this is a similar approach that we did with Skamania PUD several years ago, in that they knew they needed a new water treatment plant. So there was some work done to develop some costs, and then that can be built into that water system plan. And they at the time did a new rate study, incorporating these costs to so to answer your question, it can be a combination of built into your rates, but then also going out to outside funding agencies to help bridge the gap.
And I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. But in order for us to get to a point where we can start looking at a funding revenue stream, we're going to be locked into you guys for about $500,000 as far as engineering fees go. So I am concerned about where these revenue streams are going.
The revenues, like revenue streams related to us or related
No, to the project.
To the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a catch-22. You can't go out for funding without a plan. Yeah, I mean, you can't get the money without some work being done up front. I mean, it's so there definitely is an investment from the city, initially.
Okay, well, Kyle, you know where I'm coming from on that. So I'm just really concerned about the amount of money that we are going to be putting out to get to a point where we're going to be able to possibly go out for revenue streams.
Mhm.
And we're going to be into this thing, $500,000, and the only thing we show for is a report.
The report, yeah.
And I've got issues with that. So thank you.
Can I ask a question? On the money part of this, and maybe this is an internal question, I don't know. So we've already contracted for this work to be done. I don't see a motion are we doing anything tonight as far as making any decisions? Because
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one
okay,
B,
I just,
Yeah.
on the agenda, I didn't see a motion, but maybe I'm missing it, and it's right on there.
Under B.
Okay, so basically, the decision we're making tonight is whether we spend $166,941. Right. So and maybe this is an internal question, how much have we spent so far? Dave, you mentioned $500,000, but I don't know, how much have we spent so far? Like on phase 1A, do we know? But it sounds like what I'm hearing from everybody is that if you don't do 1B, this phase, you don't spend this money, you're not gonna know the extent of your problem in terms of
Yeah, so
where you go
phase
next.
1A was, the contract was about 63,000.
63, so 200, and so we're at 220 or give or take.
Yeah, so, and if you want to add in phase 2, I mean, probably,
Okay, because this is 1B here we're talking about, so phase
yeah,
2.
so if you wanted to go to phase 2, which would give you that design report that would be
That's-
used for funding applications, there would be some more for that.
Okay, and maybe that's what David was referring to, you're getting up to $500,000.
Right.
It wouldn't be that much. I mean, you're talking maybe 100, probably. There would be some design work, some more detailed design work to actually go from like a concept plan to a more detailed plan. Like I said, it'd be what I would call a 10% design. So you might be 100,000. So I guess you'd be, 300 and something total into this, to get through these, to get to that point where you're going to the agencies, and requesting funding. Yeah, the idea with this, again, was to look at it as, okay, what are we going to do for the long term? Right? So 50, 75 years. So I appreciate it's a significant investment. The intent is that it's also it's a long-term solution.
That'll be a lot
Kyle?
more expensive
helps.
to do it in 2040.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, Chuck Oldfield. Is it the intent of your company to follow this process through, not just the initial analysis, but also at a point where you'd actually do the work on the installation of a new system?
So we wouldn't, if you're talking about the final design of the system, yeah, I would love to be able to do that, but that would be up to the city. And typically, if you have outside funding, for a project of this magnitude, you're required to go out for advertisement.
Yeah.
So it would probably be a competitive process for the final design work.
I just have two internal questions probably for the city staff. And that is, okay, if this 166, let's say we approve that, that is coming from, have we budgeted for that for this year? So we already have that budgeted somewhere in this year's budget? In other words, where's the
Yes.
funds coming from? So when we approve this year's budget, that it covered what this will cost.
Correct.
Last year.
Correct.
Okay,
This was factored into.
Yeah.
that was factored into it.
Yes, we don't have to make an amendment to the 25 budget to do
Okay.
this work.
Okay, and then when was, just to help me get a complete picture, refresh my memory if necessary. Too, because some of the, when we did phase 1A, when was that contracted for and done? What budget was that?
It's like June of 2024.
Okay, so that was,
Started in 24. Yeah.
okay, just thank you for reminding.
Finished in-
Okay, got it. Okay. So we have the funds sitting there to pay for this part of it and anticipated that. Okay.
Any other questions for our guests?
Maybe talking to us about the adjustment too for the Cascade Avenue budget adjustment. Is that we have them online here?
Yeah, were they
I don't-
involved in that?
Is that a
That's the
different,
question.
I think that's a different department than we decided.
It's a different issue, but yes, it's so with the same firm, so I'll leave it up to you.
I don't
if
know
you'd
that
like to
they,
ask.
that they can even speak to that.
I'm not sure if that's, if they have knowledge of it.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
assuming
we are,
you guys
we
are
are
just here to
involved
talk
in the,
about. Yeah, that's what I thought. You're here just to talk about the.
oh,
water.
we're involved in the Cascade Avenue project and I'm happy
Okay.
to speak to any of that.
Let's do that. There was some sort of an issue with the bid. So we've been asked to put some more money into the bucket for the project. So can you speak to how the mistake was made?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the bidding process, what we put together within our special provisions and our plan set is a quantity count for all of the work that the contractor is going to need to provide. We do that in what's called a bid schedule. So the contractor will base their unit pricing for any kind of work, any kind of material off of quantities that we give them. So during this process, it was completely a mistake made by me specifically, actually. I had miscounted the water service connections required for this project when I put it in the bid schedule. It is shown correctly on the drawing set, but it is inputted incorrectly into the bid schedule. And so when the contractor bid the project, they bid for a certain number of water service connections, came out to, I want to say, a total of $24,600 for the ones that were in the bid schedule. But because of miscounting, there is an additional number of water service connections that unit pricing would need to be applied to. So that would be an additional either 24,600 or 26,400. I don't have that number in front of me at the moment.
24,600.
So yes, that amendment that is being requested is a mistake by Grayling, and the contractor needs to get paid for the additional work required, not shown in the bid schedule.
Okay, this could be a delicate question again, Chuck Oldfield. Is there enough in the margins? Profit to share the burden of this mistake?
I'm sorry, is that a Grayling question?
Yeah, yes, it is. Did you hear me?
Yes, is there enough? Sorry,
In
can you
your
repeat it one more
margins,
time?
when you built in your profit margin for doing this particular project, you've acknowledged that this was a mistake that you made, and we've made an approval on an amount that was obviously deficient of $24,600. Is there enough in your margins to be able to share the burden of that mistake?
Kyle, can I have you chime in?
We can share the. Yeah, we can do that.
So when we talk about share, what does that mean?
Who are you asking that question of?
Yeah,
The-
who's the,
Portion, half, or what are we talking about? Shares could be kind of broad.
right. Well,
Could Grayling split the difference?
yeah, we can do that. I haven't been in this position before, so it's a new negotiation.
Can I ask a question? And I know it's a sensitive matter. This is just, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is where, and I appreciate the question, Chuck, because I think you get to the heart of the matter. It's right on. When I was a contractor, and I was for a brief period, I wasn't very, didn't like yet, so I didn't do it very long. But if I made a mistake, I had to eat it 100%. So what I'm trying to figure out is how this is any different than that. But I understand that sounds kind of harsh, me asking you that question, but let me point out something from our perspective. We're a pretty small town, and we're already struggling to pay some big bills that we really can't afford as it is. And so this is a huge deal to us. So if it was 100% your mistake, and we're signing a contract with you for a new contract for 166,000,
No,
would it-
just for the cascade.
I know, just for one new thing, I know, I'm just looking at that, but there's also, we're discussing 166 new revenue on something else for the work they would do. Could you, I mean, could you discover 100% of it? Because actually, that's usually what happens, right? Am I wrong? If a contractor underbids something or makes a mistake, they eat it. That's what happens in the real world. So that should be an option here is what I'm just suggesting.
And Pat, I think both you and Chuck are correct. The way that I look at this, number one, if the bid documents were not correct when it went out to bid, would someone else have been able to get the bid instead of Swafford? But because those items were left out, it may have changed who our contractor was.
Mhm.
And I think that's more of an issue that we have than what this money is. So in my opinion, Grayling is fully responsible for this. They should make the payment on this. And that's what my stance is gonna be.
Dave, if I may, I can actually speak to that because when Cody made me aware of this situation, I asked the exact same thing about would that have changed, the contractor we went with, and actually the amount that we have here is actually within that margin of what was originally budgeted, and the next closest bid or contractor was not close even with this additive.
Okay.
But still, that was a question of payment of it, the difference.
Yeah. So we're coming. So I guess my question back to you, Wes, is we're gonna have to, if we were to have to pay this, we'd have to squeeze a balloon. Where are you gonna pull that money from?
Oh, no, I agree.
So
No,
that's
I'm not
the issue.
disagreeing.
That's what's going
Yeah.
on in my head right now as far as this budget goes.
Yeah.
We're going to the taxpayers and saying, folks, we gotta come up with another, $25,000 to do this project down there.
Mhm.
And I've got a real heartburn with this.
Mhm.
As far as being able to look a retired person in the face and say, Grayling made the mistake, but yet we're having to eat it. And I don't buy that.
I completely understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
And can I say something? I understand it's delicate because we also, and to you folks, I mean, I appreciate your work. I'm just speaking for me and the work you're doing. And I understand that we want to have a good working relationship. I also, for 2 years now, I've heard from citizens that are hurting and the taxes we give them. So, and I realize these are two separate items on the agenda, but let me tell you what I'm thinking of. When somebody comes to me because we need the services done for a new 166,000, wants that approved, and then we also have the mistake. Where I'm at, I'm more inclined to support the 166 if the company will cover the mistake in the next portion as well. I consider that, if not, then I will not support the 166. I want it to be, I think the two are connected. That's where I'm at.
Kyle, after all of that, are you in a position to make any kind of an offer to us regarding this issue?
Yeah, I acknowledge that it was our error, and we can make it right. I don't know how the budget was done. I think what Wesley was maybe getting to is if you add in that amount to Swafford's estimate, you get pretty close to what the engineer's estimate was. So in terms of, if it's an additional cost to the city, I'm not sure, because I would imagine the city was budgeting around what our estimate was. But anyway, yes, I guess to answer your question, yeah, we'll make it right.
The 100% then, and so. You'll make the 100%, right?
Yes.
You'll be responsible for the 24,600. Okay, thank you. With that condition, I'd be prepared to make a motion to,
Are we there yet?
No, almost.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for our guests? Well, team, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
Hey.
Chris.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Thank you, Krista.
Have a good evening.
You too.
let me know when you're ready for a motion.
We got,
Well, it's fresh. I don't, if you guys are fine with moving the motions around to, that's different on the order on the agenda.
We can go straight to B.
I mean, I'd be willing to make a motion on,
Let's do
on
B's.
AA contingent upon the agreement that they just made.
But we got B and C.
or B and C, so yeah, B, you be, you're.
Yeah,
you'll
see,
be on
oh, yeah,
B.
so however you want to do it.
C is-
We
yeah,
know what
I'll move
the.
Right.
Move them around, Mayor.
So, all right, I'd entertain a motion for 8B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Grayling Engineering to conduct portion 1B of the long-term water supply study.
Second.
First and a second, any further discussion?
I have one issue, because this is one that I looked at and really thought about, not that I'm objecting to it
Mhm.
long-term,
Mhm.
but it's not an immediate concern. And I would really like to have Cody here to discuss some issues. To check to see what the lifespan was on the previous work that we have, where we are financially with the waterworks and the fee schedule that we have, if we're gonna be in a position to support substantial improvements at what point.
So the existing water plan is gonna be up in the next couple of years. So we wanted to make sure that the water plan took into account what direction we're gonna go with the actual source. So they do kind of tie together. What were the other concerns that you had?
You know, I think that pretty much addressed it.
Can I ask a point of clarification? As it's clear, I'm willing to support that, but I want it conditioned on the fact that they're gonna eat the 24,600. And if we do the motion separately, on C, how do you
There
propose
is
we
no
do
C.
that? Well, the
Then
24,
you vote nay for the other one.
but if we vote nay
no,
for
we
the
just-
other one,
We don't have to
Some-
make the motion for the other
We're
one.
not-
We just-
okay, so,
Because
okay, and
we're
I think we have
stripping
good
it. It's just
documentation as to
dying.
what the agreement is, so I'm not
Correct.
worried about it. Okay,
Correct.
got it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
with you.
There is,
C's
there is
just-
no C.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
I
I was
think
just getting overly technical,
Right.
sorry.
No, I understand.
Okay, so I want to make sure that your concerns have been addressed. So that's why they're all kind of tying together, the water plan.
Well,
and
it
the-
sounds like we're starting on a long-term relationship with this company.
So the way it worked with the wastewater plant is that we had a Grayling type company and led us through the process of designing. And then when it came time to bid, they did put in a bid, but they did not get the contract. The company that did, the engineers that did Wallace, they found a way to pull it apart and make it bite-sized pieces instead of the engineer's plan, the other engineer's plan to do it all at once. So their plan, their scheme was quite a bit more expensive all at once as opposed, so if they come up with the original, the plans, they're not necessarily going to get the bid for the construction.
Final
plans.
engineering and construction.
And
So yeah, this is
it's
really,
already built into the budget for this year.
Yes.
and we're,
It's just,
this
on the
is
surface,
just
we'd like
gonna
a lot
say
of money
which
for a
direction we wanna
study.
go,
Mhm.
and then we go.
So the way it was explained to me was gathering all the data, pros and cons of both directions, whether we go with the surface water or groundwater, so that there's enough information to put on the table at this table to make a decision on which direction to go.
I guess my question would be, you said that this money was in the supplemental budget,
It's good, we've added it into the budget for 2026.
2025.
Yeah.
2025.
2025, yeah.
Well, wait, I thought we doing it, because we were talking about this for, putting it in for.
See, I don't remember this
Next
money
year.
being added in on the supplemental
On the
budget.
supplemental budget.
And
We
that's,
talked about it
that's
for-
what my
we always talked
concern
about it for
is.
next year, but
Mm. Yeah, is that on there for 2026? Yeah, we'll have to look on.
We can, well, I mean, if we need to hold off on this until we get those
Can we
answers.
defer-
I didn't know,
defer
yeah,
this one?
I thought they were already in there.
Yeah,
So-
I don't think it is.
It was just that
And-
first part, not the second part.
Well, if that's the situation we're at, because I think we need to get clarification on that before we vote. And also if Chuck, you still have questions and you'd like to talk to Cody, I would recommend
Yeah.
waiting on it.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
So we can make sure.
then Mr. Mayor, do I withdraw my motion or would we just vote no?
no, all in favor, all opposed.
Aye.
All right,
Based on that discussion,
Yeah, something I don't think we necessarily need to do it. I want to make sure we get it in the right spot, make sure it's budgeted.
yeah, so
That's it.
it's a housekeeping.
Yeah.
Because I remember how slim
Budgeting
the
issue.
2025 budget was originally passed. And then there was some discussion about a supplemental, but it had to do basically with personnel.
Can
If
I
I
ask
remember
you questions on that, Mr. Mayor?
sure.
And then we can move on. What's our timeline? When are they wanting this, when are we wanting to get this work started? And when, and I assume, so when, are we hurting ourselves by delaying? And I think we have to delay, but I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out when was work gonna start on this? I'm just trying to figure out the ramifications, even though I think we're going the right way.
I don't think I don't think it hurts us substantially at all. I know that Cody was very eager to get this passed tonight because he's concerned about the long-term sustainability of the creek right now. But I think given that we have not identified exactly where the funds are coming from, if we're not sure if they were in the 25 budget, I think we should
Okay.
wait.
Would it be
And one of the,
appropriate to defer it to the 30th when we get together for the budget meeting?
that's what I was gonna
Yes, yeah,
suggest.
yeah, we
So
can
that,
add
and
that to
that's
the
right
special
around the
meeting.
corner. So that's what I was gonna say. And then if that were the case for the budget meeting, the only reason that's good, that's brought up now is
Mhm.
if that has to be billed as a different kind of meeting
Right,
where
I'll
we
say
can
especially when you put
vote for
vote
it,
things,
vote
yeah.
yes on it, then that'd be good. Take that into account.
We can definitely add that to the special meeting
Okay.
in time.
Just
Yeah,
gotta be on
perfect.
there
Thank you.
specifically.
So there's only a delay of about a week.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All right, Wes, let's talk about 8A utility billing audits.
Yes, so we conducted a very long audit of the utility bills. Because one thing that we discovered, or Deanna did it first, and then as we started looking into the bills, we realized that there were quite a few mistakes made in years past, and there were some customers who were overbilled, some were underbilled, some had never been billed at all. And so instead of bringing it to you piece by piece by piece, we conducted the entire audit to find out what exact amount we may need to waive is. And so as I outlined in the report here, there were 7 accounts that were overbilled due to the fact that at a certain point, I believe in 2024, there was no clarity on when to start billing for sewer. And so one person was saying, oh, it has to start at occupancy. Another person was saying it has to start at installation. And so that confusion and staff turnover caused these mistakes to happen. And so we've conducted it. These are the final amounts to make these our customers whole. And also, as we did, I believe, back a few months ago, passed a clarification that it starts at the time of installation of the sewer. But since there was no clarity at the time, I believe it's not fair to charge these customers for a policy that we didn't know was that we weren't even clear on. So I propose to waive these amounts.
I'd move to approve waiving the overbill amounts in a total of $8,550.27. and the accounts identified in the audit to make them whole.
Second.
Lucy got in by split second. All right, so first and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You. All right, Wes.
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking through, we're skipping B and C.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, so, tonight on the agenda is an update to the personnel policy. As you all know, we have had several staff resignations in the past month. Yeah, so, I'm sorry.
Waste management adoption plan come first.
That was in
Uh,
The
the.
consent agenda?
that was in
Oh,
consent
consent
agenda.
agenda. Apologies, it changed.
Yeah, I was confused
I'm
on
not-
that too.
Okay.
Line
Yeah.
Item D,
Yeah.
8D.
So due to recent resignations, we needed to hire for the planning department. And one tactic that, or one decision we made was that due to the lack of staff and no one being here to process permits and records requests and due to a lack of staff overall here in City Hall, we put out for a permit and records manager position. And so this role was something I was really looking into as an elevation of Tiffany's role. And really, because I had listened to a lot of people around town and to you all on the council about the difficulty of going through a process of an application of a building permit, and that the process was very slow and not easy to go through for the customer. And I thought this position, as it's structured, will be a great way to speed that up and to make sure that there is one person dedicated to making sure that process is simplified. So we have gone out and started the hiring process for that, and we are at the final round of interviews. So we hope to have someone on within the next 2 weeks, which would be a great relief because we're down to 3 staff in City Hall in the past 2 weeks. And then additionally, in terms of the actual planning role, we were debating whether to contract that out or to hire a city planner or to fill Ben's old role as the community development director. I initially had thought of going out for a contractor on an as-need basis, but I sat down and talked with folks on the planning commission, and they very strongly recommended the need for a full-time city planner. And so that's what you have on the table here for you. So essentially, in looking at the past roles where a Tiffany's role was here and say Ben's was up here, they're sort of meeting in the middle, to where they're both the same salary schedule and the same level here in City Hall.
So I've actually asked Jeff as chair of the planning commission to relay what the message was that you brought to Wes, or as far as hiring a planner.
Sure. And it goes back to what service are we providing to people in the city? And, you know, you could contract out this work, you could go to the county, but again, the city is fairly unique in terms of its zoning and land use regulations are different than the counties. Its comprehensive plan is for the, you know, for the city and it doesn't relate back to the, you know, to the county, for example. If you looked at the county, it's a potential contractor. Also, the planning function is pretty integral to your public works department as well. If they're talking about capacity in terms of what they need to do for water, or where they're gonna do roads or water system improvements, it kind of goes back to what's the land use that you're gonna have out there. So there's a need for that sort of integration. You also have a number of outside regulations that come to play. You have the State Growth Management Act. This is specific requirements. The Shorelines Management Act. You have a variety of other restrictions that come through, say, Fish and Wildlife in terms of, as Pat knows, riparian. So you have a variety of of other outside activities as well. So it really requires someone who is here when someone walks through that door, whether they want to do a short plat, whether they want to do a subdivision, whether they're thinking about, a use under the current zoning and they have questions. Someone who can be here and be responsive to them and also be able to bring those issues directly back to you. If you contract that out, you start to lose that connection. You lose that level of service to the folks here. And I'm not so sure that it doesn't cost you more too when you start going out to contract with other agencies. That's not to say that the county doesn't have technical expertise in terms of planning. They do, but they also have their own work out there. And so, where does this come to play in terms of their priorities? Do they have to add staff to do this? Do they want to become familiar with your comprehensive plan and be here for the hearings that you're going to have on comprehensive plans? And be able to relate what they're hearing, from the community to you. So in summary, we talked about this on the planning commission. We thought that this was an important service to the people of the city. And really felt like it doesn't need to have that full suite of duties that Ben Shoemaker had as the community development director. But you needed someone who could run the planning department. And I think you need, as you look at who fills this role, to think about, is that person not just technically qualified? How do they work with people? What sort of personal relationships? Oftentimes, I've spent years dealing with planning departments and I've seen planners who are easy to work with and those that are not so easy. And those that are easy to work with are those that when you walk through the door, they're willing to sit down and talk to you on a pre-application basis and say, oh, you want to do this? Well, here's some input or some thoughts, or here's what the regulations are. Rather than having someone spend their time and money and hiring experts out there to develop a proposal to come in here before they've even looked at the local land use controls and find out that they've got issues, that doesn't match up with the ordinances that you all have passed. You just don't want to be there if you can avoid it. And having a planning department that's here to work with folks as they're coming up with applications is really crucial. It's an integral function in terms of the city. It's just as integral as your public works.
Thanks.
Can I ask? Question.
Go for it.
Jeff, the way I looked at this is, the county was an interim stopgap measure. That's all it was.
Right.
And I also looked at that was to get us through the budget period because we know the staff is overworked right now. We have less staff. And so we know that, it's hard for us to function as a city almost and get stuff done because, so in hiring somebody is an arduous process. In other words, getting the right person, you're gonna want to do that right too. So I looked at the county more as a lifeline temporarily through the first year. Do you see, is there any downside to turfing that decision and hiring somebody until January when we're done with the budget and everything? Do you see a downside to that? Because we're probably not going to have the person on staff anyway by the time we do all the interviews and stuff.
The problem with, putting it off that far is then you don't have.
That's 2.5 months.
Effective on board, someone has to pick up this. Like, I think the county is not a bad, sort of interim move for the fairly routine stuff that comes in.
Right.
But there's also things such, and it's on the agenda later for tonight, the short-term rental issue, which you sent down to the planning commission to look at and make recommendations to you, and we've got a status report on that. But we don't, that staff work is, quite frankly, is being done with me after I'm meeting with the planning commission members and then taking the staff work back to the planning commission members and saying, does it work?
I appreciate that.
We want to keep that going. Hey,
But
people-
realistically, we're probably gonna get more help from the county on those issues right now than some new person that doesn't even know the area that we bring in from the outside probably.
I don't disagree with that, but what I think is you need to bring that person on so they can come up to speed, you know.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
So I guess my comment would be, the county already does planning for the city of North Bonneville and the city of White Salmon. So why are we any different? I think the county currently is set up to where they can handle this. My other concern is the amount of money that we're putting out for this. Looking at the salary schedule, looks like phase one is at, what is that, 78, 187
Mhm.
for each one of those positions.
Yes.
And then you add probably another, what, 35,000 into each one of those
For
for
benefits.
benefits?
Mhm.
So you're looking at over 100 grand for each one of those two positions.
Right.
I don't see where we can do this, right now.
Well,
With the way the budget, with all of the budget things that we're talking about here. And we have the stopgap measures in place. We don't have any new developments coming in right now. We don't have any new sewer lines going in. And so, I don't see, other than you needing help here.
Mhm. Yeah.
I totally buy that.
Yeah.
So maybe what we need to do is take a look at bringing someone on board at a lot less money to be able to handle some of those duties that you could utilize them in, as opposed to bringing somebody in for, bringing two people in for 100 grand apiece.
Yeah, well,
Those salaries
one
are-
thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing I'll say in terms of the salary is that when I was calculating them out, and the reason I was showing this scale about Tiffany's role coming up and Ben's coming down and the meeting in the middle, is that the salaries here as they work out will be exactly the same amount as we were paying Ben and Tiffany together. So that the costs I made sure didn't go up at all. I think this, if you all decide that a city planner is the way to go, I think it actually is more benefit to us, because I don't think we needed someone with as big of scope as Ben's role. So I think this actually sort of brings that down and brings the customer service up, which I know people really would like, but sorry, I'm rambling on that, but yeah, so the actual cost of the salaries won't increase the cost because it's essentially the exact same amount as we were paying Tiffany and Ben, because one salary lowered quite a bit and one raised up a bit.
So wasn't Ben topped out
Yes,
at what?
120 from 120.
Okay, and where was Tiffany at?
She was 68, I believe.
And then also, I'd like to point out that the other position is it's a records manager, so that is another way to address the great deal of public records requests, which we do get. Yes.
Dave, I don't want to interrupt your flow.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so maybe that equalizes out, but there's one thing, and in fact, the irony is it's right above your head behind you that is different than before, and that is our debt graph from the city that's gone way up this year. Right, so that's throughout the discussion tonight, maybe that should have been taken down before the meeting, or it's a good visual to leave up, I don't know at all times. But that's what's been scary to me. So and so you would think if you were gonna split this baby in half, my suggestion of using the county until January, we're just giving more time to make the decision. In other words, and also, there's not, but yet it gets us through the budget period too. And not only that, the whole budgeting process will allow more discussion on this as we go. It just seems to me that it's rushed to make a decision tonight when we already had a temporary fix in place. So there's nothing to preclude us evaluating. I mean, in other words, I just said, are we hurt if we use the county to help us fill the gap until January? And what I heard is, well, I think we'd actually be in better shape because we're not gonna get that person up to speed in the next 2.5 months
So,
anyway.
Wait 2.5 months so that they're still behind.
2.5.
Well, it's one way to test the county out to see how well they
Why
do.
are
We
we
may be
testing?
totally happy with them.
Planners plan. So what the county's just gonna put a day aside to talk about plans.
Well, if
for
they want to
Stevenson.
contract with us, they'd have to. Otherwise, why would we contract with them?
That's what I'm saying. Why would we?
The
plan-
issue-
why would
We would only contract with them if they gave us service, right?
If that's the direction we want to go.
Yeah,
I don't think
but I
that's-
thought that they had agreed that they could do that in an interim basis and that we were gonna go that way. And then we switched.
It's
It
a
wasn't,
stopgap measure.
and that's exactly what I was suggesting.
That wasn't
I'm gonna have
until we
to
can get the next
kind of
one.
agree with what Jeff had offered to our council tonight. And also remind everybody this is budget neutral, so it's not gonna cost us anything.
Make a motion.
Make a motion.
I would move to approve resolution 2025-460, updating personnel policy and salary schedule.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Yeah, all opposed.
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 Carries. You have some informational items in your packet. One of them being the latest on the short-term rentals from the planning commission. You also have reports from Cody and Wes. I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers. Do you want to pay the bills?
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion to approve let's see, where are we? Voucher approval vouchers. Approve the vouchers as presented.
This is the easy part.
Second.
The first and the second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
You guys don't want to pay the bills.
No, do you want to know why I opposed it?
Go ahead.
I opposed it because I had asked for copies of them earlier this week and I didn't get them. And also, Mr. Cox had made a proposal before, or asked that they be part of the packet so the public could review them, and that neither of those things happened. And so my new policy will be, if I haven't had time to review them in
Then
advance,
just
I will vote.
don't pay the bills.
I think if you want the bills paid, present them to the council and give us time to evaluate them. You're wanting us to prove something we haven't seen, we haven't studied, and I will not do that. I did it for several months and went along with it, but I'm not gonna go along with it in the future. If you want my yes vote on money we're spending, you have to show me where we're spending the money in advance. That's my policy.
Very well.
Okay.
Anything for the greater good from council?
I have something I'd like to pass out, if I could, for consideration for next month's meeting. It seems to me that like, we have, a lot of times we have issues when things are brought to our attention and that we're asked to look at to approve that are missing some basic pieces of information. Actually, I'm going to pass that. So I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, just please read that and consider it for next month's meeting. As kind of adding a preamble or a financial worksheet to any proposals that are brought before council for approval. That address some of the fiscal issues, the impact on budget and so forth.
So this is for budget items or just when we're asking for
discussion.
And any items brought before council that we're asked to vote on that would affect budget.
So this would be a topic of discussion for the next.
This would be a
meeting.
topic of
I
discussion.
think it's a good idea.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, this is an opportunity for additional public comment on items that we've already talked about.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody? Okay, I will. When the engineer, Christie was talking, one thing that came to mind was she talked about the pipe. And I said, where's the map of the pipe? Now, there has to be a map somewhere. It's probably with the county or with the state archives, maybe.
They should know where the pipe is at.
Well, it would be nice. And the other thing is discussing the planner. I still think, yeah, you could wait till January, but you still should go out earlier, like next week maybe, to look for a planner. You're not gonna find a planner for the amount of money that you're going to be offering. So it's going to be a long process because you're gonna have to go wider and deeper. People need to live here in our community and is it $78,000? You're not gonna be able to buy a home here. You're not gonna be able to even rent anything here. So I suggest you go out for the planner earlier rather than later. And do not depend on the county to work for you. You're still gonna be paying them money. And you're not gonna be saving anything. And whichever planner that they have to work with you, they're already inundated with their own planning department. They're gonna put you second, not first. So again, I think I would suggest that you go out earlier rather than later looking for a planner. And Tiffany's position, she filled a big hole. She was there when you needed a permit, if you had a question, she was right there. So again, yes, you know, everything costs money. I'm sorry, that's the way of the world now. And you're going to have to pay people a living wage. Thank you.
Mary, anyone else? Go ahead.
Sam Stevenson. I just support Mary's perspective. Thank you for sharing. I think that's kind of insightful and yeah, that's it.
Sam? Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree too. I'm not that familiar with Bad Roth, but I'm here in Stevenson. Waiting is a big one. You're either going to provide these services either through the county or here, which is the debate. You're still going to pay the county. That's not a free deal. And you have a resource. And considering what I'm seeing in terms of staffing here, you may not provide the kind of environment, including salary, that is necessary, Mary's point. Not less, but more. So keep that in mind as you try to attract talent that wants to stay here. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. We'd like to go into executive session under RCW 42.30.1101I to discuss potential litigation. So at this point, I would ask the gallery to please leave the building and we will be returning from executive session at 7:45.
Have a wonderful evening. We're gonna take a 3-minute.
Feel free, Pat.
Okay.
Out of executive session at 7:45, there will be no action taken after this session. I'd like to call the meeting adjourned at 7:45.